Earlier this week, Rodri won the Ballon d'Or, but I think we can all agree that he was robbed. And the true winner of that award is this man here, Jordan Ayew, with another incredible last-minute bit of a skill to give us a totally undeserved 1-1 draw against the Tractor Boys. First comment straight in from Clibbo. We'll probably summarise it up. Awful, but I won't speak for you. I will start this week. I'll start with the person I think is probably going to have the most to say on this subject. Luke, LCFC Down Under. It's finished. Ipswich Town 1, Leicester City 1. What did you make of that performance?
Yeah, so look, we were just talking about this while watching the game together. I think we've seen enough. And Neil's been very, very respectful. He's tried to be subjective. He's tried to understand. But now we can all ask ourselves this. It's been 10 games. What is Cooper trying to do? We still don't know. We've seen him play 2 different systems now. And in my opinion, none of them have been convincing. We still haven't seen a full 90-minute performance. We are very lucky to get away with a point that I think the stats tell a lie, as we're just talking about as well. With the shots on target, we looked really poor. And I will say this to round it out. In my opinion, that is, even though that wasn't, I wouldn't say our poorest performance, I think it is the most least and lack of cohesion we've ever seen in a performance this season under Steve Cooper. There just was not there. It looked like a team of individuals. There was no real, like I said, no cohesion. It's just really, really poor. And I think I've seen enough, to be honest with you. I just really don't want Cooper to be here in charge anymore. I just don't.
Luke, can I ask you, how has the Goblin been saved from another sacking? And I think we know the answer to that question, and that is this man here, Jordan Ayew. Everyone in chat would love to get your thoughts. I'm sure there's going to be quite a lot of emotion to kind of get here. It is an interesting comment from Tyler. Enzo Ball has simply not worked as a system to start matches with. Blue tinted glasses locks. It's time to go. We'll come back to that in a moment. I think that's a good way of saying it. Neil, talk to me. What did you make of Ipswich Town 1, Leicester City 1?
Oh my God, that was a roller coaster of emotions. I know we said that about Southampton, but this one, we started off the 10 minutes so well. Like we're back, we're this, and then Steve Cooper got a hold of it, and the game went down like this. And then it started. Then it just bottomed out for a low period of time. Then they went down to 10 men, and Jordan Ayew came on, and then it started to tip up. If that game was another 20 minutes, I think we could have potentially won that. I think we could have won that game. But if buts and maybe, we can't rely on the team going down to 10 men in order to do that, as you can tell by the graph. But yeah, as you're saying, up, down, then back up towards the end. But at the end of the day, look, we've got a draw, but there are problems here. And it looks like the team are out of ideas. And I put that at 60 minutes. Only until Calvin Villas was sent off did we start to actually pick up the game once again.
Totally agree. Got some good comments here from Diego. Only reason we got a draw is because Phillips got that red card. Other than that, it was a bloodbath from Ipswich. Ayew was Cooper's lost son. I don't know what else to say. A good lost son, I suppose, to have. I think you got to say that Jordan Ayew's turned out to be a great signing. But let's give you a bit of an overview before we get into the emotion, which I'm sure is going to go there. So it finished 1-1. Here you can see the charts. Now, this are really misleading stats, actually, because you look at this and you think, wow, Leicester must have played pretty good. You know, we've bossed possession, we've got more expected goals, 19 shots. But the reality is, as we show here on this momentum graph, is that none of that was true up until, it wasn't even this bit. This bit even here is misleading. It was this moment here, the red card. And even then, it took us a while to really sort of turn it on. I will say the manager did make some good subs. We'll come to that in a moment. Looking here at the match ratings, again, they may be a little bit misleading because they've all kind of been misled, I guess, by those last 10 minutes. In fact, you know, normally myself, the most deceiving stats of all time is what we are, is Diego saying. And Andy said, looking at the stats show is better than the side. And that is just not true. We know that was a lie. Okay, let's talk about what happened. So we went for a very interesting lineup, I would say. Some big surprises. We decided to bring back the 2 Danes, Christensen and Vestergaard. We decided to drop Justin and Okoli to the bench. I think Okoli midweek maybe wasn't surprised. Justin maybe a little bit. Went with the rest of the team. Now, do you know what? Let's just go straight from the off, because a lot of people are saying this, Enzo system, Cooper system. What system were we playing? Luke, talk to me from a tactical point of view. Could you make heads or tails of what we were trying to do?
No, because there was 2 players that were interchanging positions way too much, and it just was not working. One of them was Ndidi. Couldn't tell if he was that box crashing 8 or if he was a 6 and a double pivot. And then the next one obviously was Ricardo Pereira, because he wasn't really rarely alongside. The first 10, 15 minutes, we saw him move up alongside Winks, and then you didn't know where he was playing. So both Ricardo Pereira and Ndidi, where you couldn't really determine where they were supposed to be playing. Again, confusing. Buonanotte all over the place. People keep on saying Enzo ball, but for the reasons I just mentioned, it's not. Because, we may be playing with a back three, but there's too many people well out of position all the time. Again, going back to lack of cohesiveness, way too many balls over the top. And something else we need to mention as well here is how many times do we foul someone on that right-hand side where we've already been so clearly, poor and, looking, vulnerable, even though JJ's not playing. So clearly it's still a system issue. That was 2 free kicks that were in dangerous positions that we got outside the box, again, on the right-hand side. I've seen enough. And I think Buonanotte, unfortunately, looks better when we play what you would call the Cooper system style A, when we attack with 3 instead of 5, but then we look, devoid of options if he doesn't do something out of a moment of brilliance. So I think, since we've changed to a back 3, Buonanotte's been too all over the place for me. Yeah,
I've got a comment here. I think it's a really good one. We were not together as Ipswich. We don't seem to be as well coached. Loose balls, good attacks, constantly breaking down. We have good players, but, and I think this next comment probably can finish off what the. I don't know if you're working in tandem, Carol and Jack, but I'm sorry, enough is enough with Cooper. Sack him now. That was an unacceptable performance, and we had to wait for 10 men to get a point. Not good enough. We needed 3 points to pull away from danger. You could also make an argument that is also true against Southampton, although I felt we did start playing better against Southampton even before they went down to 10 men. Easy gaming here. It's confusing. The players look lost at times. I think it's down to Cooper's tactics, stuck between 2 systems. Is exactly what I think. So Neil, talk to me about these 2 systems.
So it's kind of like, I won't get copyright. You got one side, you got Diggy to the left, Enzo to the left, Cooper to the right. Here I am stuck in the middle with what? And that's kind of where we are. Again, the thing is, we started the first, let's not forget, when we started the Enzo ball system that the team were used to, Vestergaard were getting on the ball in good positions. We were creating good opportunity. The ball was moving nice and quick. In the first 10 minutes, we played really good football. We were all refreshed because, this brings it back to last season. But we were doing really well. And then after that, we just started to make some really stupid decisions. First of all, we didn't get control of the game. We let the game get away from us. Second of all, every time we got the ball to Manson, who is, again, great keeper, great with his feet, great shot stopper, what do? Hoof it long. And that played into Ipswich. Went, brilliant. We'll take this all day long. And the fact that we could see that from the outside and the manager couldn't, for me, that's absolutely bizarre. Because Ipswich going, brilliant. We can take control of the game. We can start playing our football. And they started creating opportunities. And you knew eventually one of them would go in the back of the net. We lost control of the game. But when we didn't play, we played an Enzo system without the Enzo possession. And for me, it was bizarre. It made real no sense. And then we'll get into the second half later. But the first half, we did play some goods. We had 2 really good opportunities the first 10 minutes. I was thinking, great. If we still keep doing this, and now we keep doing that, I'll bring up. Oh, there we go. So we'll start bringing that up. But I just don't. I don't know what we're doing. I genuinely don't know what we're doing.
You don't know what you're doing, but not labelled at Neil, labelled at Steve Cooper. I want to speak about this actually, right? So I've got Victor Christensen here on the screen, and it's funny because everyone, we jokingly say Jordan Ayew is Steve Cooper's, love child, etc., etc. But I want to point this guy out, right? I don't think individually he's a bad player, but Victor Christensen, every time he's not been injured, he's basically been in the team, and he offers absolutely nothing to the team. In fact, when did we get the equaliser? Do you know who came on for Victor Christensen? Jordan Ayew, right? Who
get my screen share up.
There you go. That is what's actually happening.
Shout out LCFC Turkey, because they're a brilliant Turkish account, Leicester City account. But I saw that and I thought I have to bring this up.
Do you think, Anil, that you saw the best out of Victor Christensen and that he gave his false promise under Brendan Rodgers, because Rodgers played a high line, so he was able to be chances are that when Victor Christensen was on the ball, he was well more further advanced up the pitch, therefore being able to put a cross into the box. You don't see that with Christensen under Cooper in any system that he tries playing. Trying to play it out of the back is very poor. If he hoofs it forward, it turns the ball over. Don't mind you, everyone, that before that red card came into play, that they were on, I think it was 12 shots on a goal, and we were on 5. So the stats tell a lie now. So until that red card, we were hoofing it forward and turning the ball over and over, inviting pressure upon ourselves. So it's just Christensen can't play it out the back. And I will say this, though, JJ deservedly, I think, should have been dropped. But again, Christensen just demonstrated why JJ is the better option.
I was saying, go on, Neil. Sorry, go on.
I was going to answer that. So to make your point, Christensen had one. He's kind of like the Tete in a sense. He had one good game, and that was against Aston Villa. He was great in that game. After that, if you noticed, he started to be dropped. Luke Thomas started getting to the team, and he wasn't really played again in the Leicester system. Then Enzo came in. He went on loan to Bologna. So this narrative that he had a time under Brendan Rodgers. We didn't succeed with him in the team and he wasn't a main player and we were starting to lose games. It was just that one game that people remember against Aston Villa. So in that sense, he's kind of like an extended version of Tete, but he doesn't get the reputation.
Yeah, so I mean, Diego's put it here, and I completely agree with you, Diego. So he's just not fit for this system or the league in general. To me, Victor Christensen, he's just a rich man's Danny Simpson. Now, we did win the league with Danny Simpson, right? But Danny Simpson was a good defensive fullback who didn't really offer you anything going forward. And the modern game in the Premier League has changed. So your fullback either has to be really good going forward, give you something on offer there. So let's take a look at Leif Davis, right, for Ipswich today. He scored an absolutely insane goal, but not just that insane goal, right? He's getting in behind the right-hand side multiple times. He's causing a lot of troubles. Now, to be fair, a lot of times Fatawa was getting in behind him. So they were always playing this sort of like, rope-a-dope, it could go one way or the other, but he's giving you something. Whereas Christensen, Luke's bang on to say he can't play the ball out. At the amount of times it goes to him and he just ends up smashing it down the line to no one and we turn over possession, right? So I agree with you, Diego. But the problem is, right, it's not actually the player's fault, right? The issue is that the manager has picked him. And why has he picked him? Because you could have put Okoli as the left-sided centre-back. You could have had Justin. And yeah, a lot of people are doing it. Tyler's got a really good comment. The biggest difference I've noticed between Cooper's 3-2-5 and Enzo's 3-2-5 is just how oddly narrow Fass is in position. It makes no sense because it's taking Ricardo out of the game too. I think it's even worse because what's happening in this game is we sort of change between sometimes we were playing. So yeah, first 15 minutes, there were large elements where we were playing the Enzo system and Ricardo's playing next to Winks and we're looking good. But then other times we're not doing that and we're getting good. And I think Cooper's too scared. I think basically he is erring on the side of caution and he wants Ricky to too often just go and play the right back because he's scared that we're going to concede rather than being aggressive enough and taking control. Good comments here from Scott. Totally right. Could everyone please smash a like on all of the on this particular stream, but also sub to all the channels that are involved. That's LCFC Down Under, Beyond the 90, and For Fox's Sake, and of course Blue Tinted Class. You haven't done that already. Here's an interesting one. Question is, why didn't we keep Brandon Cover and just play him? Well, I suppose to be fair, he's playing in League One, but I mean, he could play inverted fullback. It could be one for the future. He's got there. Here we go. The table has been really tight with more freak results this season. We are actually just a win from getaway to mid-table. So that's interesting. Let me just quickly show you this. So yeah, here's how results have gone today. Now, I will say that Wolves and Crystal Palace are playing later, and the way it's going, I wouldn't be surprised if somehow Wolves win to pull them back into it. But you can see, looking at the results that are important to us, even though, look, the top two actually drop points. I believe Liverpool go top. So, actually, that's wrong. Ipswich and Leicester, we drew 1-1. So you can see how late we got this goal. Southampton have won 1-0. What it's done for the table, if I can just bring that up. I think I've got it here. Right. So I believe this is 10 games played. Now this is out of date as well. So do you know what? I'll get the new table up.
Let me bring it up. Yeah. I'll bring it up in the meantime. But yeah, what that's done is that's made sure that where we are at the moment, that towards the bottom of the table we have we are on double the points at Ipswich, and Ipswich have got still 0 wins. If you want to bring this up, Anil, I've shared it.
Thank you.
But at the moment, again, it's we're not looking great, let's be honest. In terms of performance-wise, Everton, even though Southampton beat them, Southampton, I just had a look at the mark stat, had 0.4 XG, whilst Everton had 2. So that
Really?
again has gone against the run of play as well.
That's crazy. And let me ask you, and let's ask everyone in chat then. Do you think we'll stay up currently?
With this manager?
Yeah. If nothing changes, we keep this manager. What happens? And I've got that question for chat as well, please.
That's a really tough one because there's 3 bad teams rather than us. Are there 3 worst teams in the league? The answer is yes.
That's pretty much the answer to that question.
Even as it stands.
I feel like it doesn't come down to us; it comes down to teams around us. So, in other words, no. That's probably the gun to my head. I would say no. Under Steve Cooper, he doesn't fill me with confidence. He obviously doesn't fill the players with confidence. They're trying to change his tactics and tell him what they want to play. So he's already starting to lose the dressing room. At the very least, we saw Yannick Vestergaard and Ricardo Pereira come back. Before this game started, I thought, you know what? I like this starting 11. I've got no complaints. But again, lack of cohesiveness of the players, it's just not there, in my opinion. I think that he needs to go now. I don't care that we got a draw. That flatters us, that result, big time.
Exactly. That's what I feel. I mean, yeah, it's interesting here. So Scots finished 18th and lose out on goal difference. And Chips, I think you've got the real point is how many times can Cooper get lucky? It is a little bit like, do you remember in Breaking Bad where Jesse would go to Walt and he'd be like, he can't keep getting away with it. But that's what's happening. Somehow, like today, how on earth, like, let's be honest with you, who thinks we deserved anything from that game? In fact, I'll tell you what, we were watching the game and the way that streams are sometimes is sometimes someone will be slightly ahead of the other. So we've got an equalizer and Luke was slightly far ahead and then the equalizer went in and there was zero reaction on Luke's face, like completely emotionless, like he was dead inside. And I thought, oh, it must be an offside goal, right? No, it was a legit goal. And he just goes, do you even care? And the sad truth is, I know exactly where he's coming from. That, like, yeah, of course it's the thrill of getting a goal back, but it's like, it was just completely. Neil, how did you feel in that moment?
I'm glad it happened, but it didn't change much. And it was because we had, for me, the annoying thing is that why is it took so long in the game to start playing? And Ipswich were there to be got at. Their defense isn't great. Their defense is a championship defense. And it took them going down to 10 men, one of their most experienced players going off the pitch in order for us to start playing football. And even then, we didn't play football immediately. Well, what I've got, I think in my notes, I've put overloads. So like numerical superiority. The only time that happens is when they go down to 10 men. So Southampton being one of them and Ipswich being the other. Both of them went down 10 men and both of them, let's be honest, have championship level squads. Do you think that happens if we get, again, Nottingham Forest, if they go down to 10 men, do you see us come and get a one, if they were 1-0 down, do we come back into the game? I don't think so. So I think we can be a little bit lucky to go, look, we've got something out of Southampton, we've got something out of Ipswich, but better teams will find a way and better teams that resilience will carry them through. So for me, the most embarrassing thing is that 60 minutes, they were completely out of ideas.
Yeah, I agree. So there's interesting things Scott's put here. Frustrating things after the first 25 minutes, everything was in our favour. From what I was able to gather. So that's exactly right. Here's what the momentum chart says. But as Neil's put out, so I mean, yeah, the story of the game was this, is that we started the game pretty well, to be honest with you. We probably could have been 1 or 2-0 ahead. We played nice kind of ideas of Enzo ball, but then we made like a few sloppy mistakes and it appeared that the coaches told the team to sort of start going long. So inexplicably, we just start pumping the ball long from every goal kick, playing it long. Ipswich just kept cleaning up the ball. Thank you very much. They were winning all of the aerial duels, and it was just all Ipswich from that point in time. Second half starts. I think, to be fair, you can see here again with the momentum, it was fairly even. And, they scored, but I felt like that goal was a little bit against the run of play. Now, it's an unbelievable goal. Again, guess what side will the goal come from if Leicester concede the goal, Luke?
Of course, the right-hand side, where we've looked vulnerable all season. Look, going on by your momentum and the first 15 minutes, would you say, and everyone, I'm asking you guys this, and I ask everyone in the chat, just sit and think about it for a second or rewatch the game. I would argue that nearly 90% of our threatening chances created were all begun with Yannick Vestergaard on the ball of a line-breaking pass. Now, he's instrumental with last season when the best playing at the back would come from, Yannick Vestergaard, Harry Winks, and Ricardo on the double pivot in support with Harry Winks. Ricardo Pereira was rarely there alongside to help Harry Winks, so he was kind of left isolated a bit and expected quite a lot of him in that double pivot position. And then again, indeed, he didn't know where he was. So for me, Yannick Vestergaard was every chance created, I think, was built for him to begin with, in my opinion. And then when the red card happened and Calvin Phillips came off and he was able to get further at the pitch, we tried locking him in. He was able to start distributing the ball when we're playing it back and locking them in. So I would like to see him keep his position.
I don't think that's even opinion, Luke. I think that's actually fact. Luke's spot on here, as Cabas says. And that's the story. For the first 15 minutes, Vestergaard's getting on the ball. He's playing the ball to Ricardo and Winks. He's finding these amazing long passes to either winger. He's making everything happen. He gets slightly caught on the ball, which can happen at some point. I feel the team panics or the coaches panic. They tell them to go long and start playing it more transitionally, trying to hit them on the fast break. It doesn't work, and we give possession over. So here's a good question from Carol. She asks, tactical question for the panel. Why do their attackers, that's Ipswich, have plenty of space around them when ours nearly always seem hemmed in? And I think I can probably give you the TLDR answer to that, and that's this, which is Steve Cooper, the manager. Because unfortunately, it's the way that we're coached, because that's not what's supposed to happen. But I think to maybe try and give more context, I mean, what's happened is that, and Luke's kind of touched upon it, is that when we had Vestergaard building from the back, what we were able to do is we were able to find our players because we were connecting the passes. But when we're just playing it long, then they're winning the physical duels. And then every time we got the ball, it was just in the moment where there's many players crowded around. The way that especially Ipswich plays, they compact the game into like a, 4-4-2. It was an interesting question. There was no attack. How many shots on target? Not so many. I'll bring up the stats. But, Luke, Neil, you talk to me. What did you make of what Luke was pointing about Yannick Vestergaard?
I mean, this sums up Steve Cooper in a nutshell. When we started to play, all the good stuff was coming through him. It was starting off in the quarterback role. He was then picking the pass that he wanted to. He was inviting pressure. He was very calm and collected. And then all of a sudden, Steve Cooper panics and goes, "Oh my God, we're going to lose the ball. Okay, let's just hit it long. Let's just do something else." And then we negated us. We basically we're having a boxing match. We're throwing some fists and we just put both hands behind our back. And then the opposition goes, "Great, it's an opportunity to really go for it." So then we're like weaving and ducking and not getting anything in response. And for me, it's things like game management. Simply, when they go 1-0 up, take the ball, like when they're starting to build momentum, especially in the second half, take the ball, control the ball, play it back to them, and start playing some football. Instead, what do? We go, let's just hurry everything. Let's just hurry everything, make sure everything is quick, everything is one-touch football, and it never really worked out. So for me, it's just, get 3-1-1 draws in a row, by the way. 3-1-1 draws.
Maybe you could say it evens out because Ipswich did get a bit lucky against us. But you know what, though? I will bring this up, which is I agree with everything you said there, Neil. I'll say that when we came out in the second half, it wasn't as bad. We weren't as rushed, but we were still, I would say, and I'll ask you about this in a moment, Luke, because I'll give you the double pivot to talk about. But the biggest difference to me between Steve Cooper and Enzo Maresca in the shape is that under Enzo, we played quite slowly and intricately. Right, and that was very deliberate. He would literally tell Yannick Vestergaard, when you get the ball, you can literally just stand there and don't do anything. Right, you wait for them to come to you, then you play the pass. But under Cooper, we try to go back to front too quickly, and that's why we do appear rushed. And that's the whole point: is that Enzo's whole system was that, like, you wait for them to start moving out of their position, and then because you've got the extra man, you use the extra space that they've created to engineer these chances. And that's where we look good from those moments, for example, where Vardy finds Mavididi. I will say this quickly. So Rated RL's brought this up. Cooper's sub having a positive impact. Let's hope that stays a trend. And I will agree with that. I think you have to be a bit objective here, right? So I do agree with everything that Neil just said, that I think his game management was poor. It was clear to everyone watching the game why we'd gone from being a completely dominant team to completely giving control to Ipswich. And it could easily have been fixed, and he didn't fix it. And then they go ahead and we still didn't really fix it. And then, they get the match. But what I will say is the game spun on the sending off, which was Calvin Phillips, and that was, I think, about 79 minutes. And then he's made 4 subs in total. And it's funny how Soumaré's got quite a low rating now. I think maybe it's just because he missed a good opportunity towards the end. But I think, to be fair, what's he done here? He took off both Ricardo and Christensen. He recognised he didn't need people that were defending, and he had to put attackers on. So he's put on McAteer, he put on Bilal El-Khanous, he put on Jordan Ayew, who is proven that he's a finisher, that's for sure. And I think, to be fair, Soumaré, there's a lot of people in chat saying they want Soumaré to start in the next game. Let's come to that in a moment. But the subs did kind of work out, and Ipswich did completely kind of collapse. And I think the reality is, if that game goes on 5 minutes longer, we probably would have won it like we did against Southampton. At least we were going for it. So, let's just talk about that one bit of positive before I get full on rant mode Luke again. So, Luke, talk to me about the subs. What did you make of them?
I like some of it, I think, but some of it flatters us because of the red card. So we had the ability to take defenders off and put more attacking players on. But there were still things that, like Casey McAteer, I think, even under Enzo, never looked threatening off that left-hand side. He looks decent off the right. But Fatawa had more of the ball than anyone on that pitch in a Leicester City shirt tonight. So, in my opinion, Casey McAteer, he got this the first second he came on, him and Soumaré got the each other's way, and it looked almost calamitous, but ended up being okay. He got fouled. He got lucky to be fouled, to be honest with you, because it looked poor. But other than that, yeah, I think he got the subs somewhat right. Maybe you could argue for Skip to come on that position for Bouba Soumaré. But to be honest with you, I don't really want to talk about it too much because I didn't watch him in the United game, so I think I'm not the person to ask about that.
Okay, that's fair. What did you make of the subs, Neil?
Subs were good, and it's not, again, nobody here said Jordan Ayew is a terrible player. We just went, why is he starting and why is he playing a full 90 minutes? I don't think, again, nobody said we disliked him. It's just the fact that, should he be starting ahead of Fatawu? No.
Chat, let me tell you, Luke and Neil are absolute Ayew haters, and they're having to eat their words, and I will make sure that they will have to. No, I'm joking. Yeah, Peter said Phillips should be playing Australian rules. I know what you mean. Thoughts on bringing KDH back on loan in January? I mean, everyone would take in. And
what, making the manager?
Yeah, as the manager. Tyler, great point. To me, there wasn't a single second between minutes 20 to 65 we had any control of the flow of the match. I would go further than that, Tyler. I would say up until 85.
80 minutes, yeah.
That's the only time when we started. Easy gaming. You think we should go 2 up top? We sort of did at the end there with Ayew and Vardy. But in general, I would probably say no, but I'll ask the panel. But you know what? Let's start going through some of the players then, and we can talk about it. Now, of course, this is a bit odd. So what I will ask you with a lot of these questions as well, though, is, is it all on Cooper, or can the players do something different? So, I mean, I'll start with you today, Neil, which is Mads. And Mads unusually has a bad rating in this game. And I expect it's not because of the goal, because I don't think he can do anything about the goal. But I think it will be because, basically, if you look at his distribution, it's probably going to say that his pass completion rate was shocking. So even if you've been instructed to go long, and remember, Mads has got good distribution in general, what did you make of his game, all that considered?
Yeah, this is the thing. It's not his fault he got a low rating. It's because he was told to, again, distribute out from the back to start lumping the ball long. And it's like, all right, I'll just lump it. It wasn't really to anyone.
Can he override that, Neil? That's my point. Is, can he say, even though I've been told to do that, that's wrong and I've got to stop doing this? It's just I'm not saying I'm right or wrong.
I get what you mean.
Yeah,
I get what you mean. At the end of the day, it's going forward from this. Is he going to learn from it? And he goes, you know what, I'm going to listen to my manager regardless was. But or am I going to, because again, he's still a young keeper. He's still listening to his manager needing what to do. So he told him to do it, and it's obviously not worked. So partly he is to blame, but I'd say most of it would still be on the manager, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Easy's put this. We ain't got tall forwards, so going long makes no sense, which I agree with. But I guess what I'm saying is, I guess it depends on who you are as a person. But I know that personally, when I play football, even though I was told to do something, if I thought that thing was dumb, I wouldn't do it, which is probably why I'd get substituted. But if you're the goalkeeper, you're probably not going to get subbed there. So I don't know. I think there's something to be said there. Luke, you talk to me about Ricardo. At fault for the goal?
I'm in two minds because Fatab was meant to be tracking back, but at the same time, I thought he was ball watching a little bit, but I also think he was putting himself in the perfect position to be able to cut out that pass. But it's a tricky one, to be honest. It's like, do you blame Fatah or do you blame Pereira? it was a good goal, to be fair, as well, from I think it was Davis. It's like a half a volley off the left foot. So look, man, it's a good goal, and if you're an Ipswich fan, you're absolutely wrapped in that. But Ricardo, for me, it's hard to again. I think it's a system issue, and you got to override it again, because 1 minute you think he's pushing in that double pivot position alongside Harry Winks, but then there's chances when we're in possession of the ball, but then he's back in that right back position. So he's kind of in that same predicament. Could you argue that we are with JJ when he plays on the right-hand side? We just look vulnerable on that side. I just don't know if they're a right winger or if they're a right back. I just can't see this working. And that side of the pitch under Steve Cooper, I just think that he's got it set up completely wrong.
Yeah, some interesting comments here. Some people saying he didn't push back hard enough. Clibbo saying Dog Troll Cooper is adding confusion to the players. A lot of things there. I mean, what I would say is what you notice about today's game is I can't remember under Enzo Ricardo flipping between the right back and the pivot as often in a game, even if we were playing a top team. And Ricardo did play against Bournemouth, by the way, last season when we beat them when we were in the FA Cup. So I think I basically do put the blame on the manager, because I think he's confusing the players. They don't know whether to stick or twist. Should they stick in the system or not? And I think they need to stick with the system for longer, right? Because even though they started winning a few balls on the 50-50s, it was mainly through mistakes. It wasn't really because they were setting pressing traps for us or anything like that. And then we've been like Coward Cooper, to be honest with you, and we've moved away from it. I'll come back to him in a moment. We talked about Christensen. Wout Fastnil, talk to me about him.
Didn't really notice him. I think there was one time that he went running up, lost the ball, trying to track what's his face, Delap for 1 point, lost the ball, then came back. I don't really know what to say, because I didn't really see him that much in the game. I'll give him a out of 10.
There you go, very scientific. Some good comments on here. Tyler saying it's a system issue. We also had that last year. It's just championship clubs couldn't exploit it. And I think you've got a good point there, because I would say that other teams that play an inverted fullback, you've got Arsenal and Man City, where they've both lost today. So, people do know how to kind of deal with it. But it's interesting that this is the very next comment. Our pressing is shit. There is no press. And you know what? That's the way that you can get around the system, right? Is you stop the ball, you win it back, and we definitely don't commit as many men forward. I'll pass over to you, Luke. Is there anything else that you want to say about that whole general thing? So we're talking about the Ricardo sort of Fatawu type system in general. What do you think?
I want to ask you guys this. Do you think that he's been out of the squad for a while, but do you think that he looks a bit leggy and a bit slow tracking back? And B, I've got a really good question I haven't even thought of until right now. Do you think he could work? Because we've seen him play as that box crashing or high 8 under Enzo in the championship on several occasions on both sides as well. Would you dare put him up as a high 8 position again, or do you think no way in the Premier League?
I don't think you need to, in my opinion, given that we've bought both Buonanotte and Bilal. So, I mean, you could in emergency, but I don't think it's necessary. But interestingly, we've got comments here that the defence will never cut out the mistakes on the right, no matter what players play. It's the system, which is what a lot of people are saying, which is possibly true. You asked, do you think Ricardo was leggy? He doesn't look 100% match fit, let's put it that way, right? Which is unsurprising, because he was benched for so many of the games. That was pretty dumb, wasn't it, Cooper? For example, him being subbed off towards the end, I don't think that was he looked upset again being taken off, but I don't think it was a bad sub to make, because I think, he did maybe look a bit tired. But I look back at that goal quite a few times. One is because Ricardo is shorter than JJ, so the ball just goes over him to get to Leif Davis. But honestly, if you look back at it, I think Fatawu was a bit lapsed in getting back. So I think there's a few things that could be said there. Ricardo is a right wing forward swapping in for Fatawu. He could play on the right wing. That's maybe he hasn't got such a good left foot, though, to cut in and go for the shot is a potential problem. Right, Justin didn't play. All right, talk to me about. I'll tell you what, I love to do this for you, Luke. So I'm going to give you a few people. We've already talked about Vestergaard, but you can mention him. But I want you to talk about Ndidi, Winks, and Vestergaard all together.
Okay, well, starting with Ndidi, I just think that he was too many different areas on the pitch. You didn't know if he was a 6 or an 8. I thought he was poor today, unfortunately. I wouldn't say that he was absolutely woeful, but I just think that he's sometimes, I think that his assists that he's had on his stats flatter him a little bit. I'm not saying he's been great a lot of times this season, but I think a lot of that press breaks down at him many times this season. I think he looks a lot more comfortable on the right. He tends to be more on the left-hand side as well. But look, I think that it just wasn't a good game for Ndidi today, to be honest with you. I think that in my opinion, I think he should be dropped for next game, to be honest with you. And I think that might be a bit controversial, but that's just my opinion.
No, I don't think that's controversial based on the last two games. I would say that I don't think he knows what position he's even supposed to play in the last two games. It's become very clear. We said even against Forest that there were times where he didn't know if he was box crashing or he was sitting deep, he was playing in between. And today I felt it was like the same thing, but even worse. He just didn't know what he was supposed to do. So he's easy's put it here. Indeed, he's stuck between roles and he doesn't press when he should. So yeah, he doesn't know what to do. He's not being utilised in any specific way that's particularly good. What did you make of Harry Winks, who played next to him?
Harry Winks, I thought, had a decent game. I thought that there was quite a few times where he dug us out and he had some great line-breaking passes. The only thing I didn't like from him today is he tried to be a bit of a hero and he had about 3 shots outside the box that skied it well over and got a bit desperate. That's another thing as well. We really looked desperate a lot of times in that game because our press was so poor. And as for Yannick Vestergaard, I spoke about him already. I thought Yannick, he didn't get enough chances on the ball, but when he was on the ball, I thought he looked brilliant, and I just hope he keeps his place because I think the biggest difference between you say that, look, the argument is that before Yannick got dropped or he got injured, there was that one game, I think it was the Bournemouth game, or that one game he turned the ball over quite a lot, which was uncharacteristic of him, but we weren't playing a back three at that point. We were playing whatever Cooper's first system was. Thing of Vestergaard is, even though he has a lack of pace, he has more time on the ball without panicking because of that experience, and still his passing range is a lot better than Okoli's. Okoli, if he doesn't have Winks in front of him and someone presses him, he tends to panic, and you've seen those dodgy back passes in the United game and other scenarios. So I think for now, Okoli needs to stay dropped, and we need to keep Yannick Vestergaard in, but build through the back with Yannick Vestergaard. That's not hoof it fucking forward.
Yeah, it's funny. Matt is put here, Vestergaard's lack of pace is the least concerning weakness of this team. I would 100% agree, which is either good or completely terrifying, depending on your perspective. Just for your interest, we are playing our next matches against Manchester United away again at Old Trafford. It's on the Sunday, but Van Nistelrooy will be in charge, not Amorim. Although Amorim will probably be in the stands because he starts the day after. Neil, I want you to talk about some of the attacking players. So talk to me about Mavididi, Fatawu, and Buonanotte. I'll give you all three of them.
Well, let's go through one at a time then. So we go through Mavididi. Didn't really, again, he had a good opportunity, kind of spaced his shot in the first 3 minutes. Other than that, didn't really, again, with the system, we need to be able to take your man on and go for it. And he kind of didn't really work. I think he's had an off game. And I don't think the system was really worked to his advantage. And partly it's because Christensen, when you've got that position, you're not feeding. He just didn't get fed. But even then, he didn't have the best of opportunities. Taking it to Buonanotte, again, I don't think he understands his role in the team. He was less so compared to Nottingham Forest, but he was trying to be like a bit of a wonder kid, trying to take everybody on when sometimes the opportunity for passes was left or right of him. I think there was one time early in the first half where he forces Murray to save, and I thought, okay, if he keeps doing that, we will get a goal. But he should have passed to either Vardy or I think Mavididi on one side as well, and he didn't. The problem is, if he was the only weak link, it would be fine. But there's so many different weak links. I think that Luke was mentioning about Ndidi was being caught in two minds. I think that Ricardo was exactly the same. I think Winks was exactly the same. I think potentially Buonanotte fits into that system. He's not sure what to do when because he's not been taught how to. And then for Fatawu, I think Fatawu was good, but too little, too late, in my opinion. Did take on his man one-on-one, did get some good balls in, but I'm just struggling at the moment because all three below par. I think Fatawu probably the strongest out of the three, but yeah, it's not really saying much. And I think part of it isn't the player's fault because they're not being told what to do in this position. You do this, and afterwards, I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to do what I usually do: run at a player and try and get to the byline and get crosses in. He got the byline well, but sometimes his crosses were a bit too heavy, which we've said for Taiwo a few times. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
he
think
could have
I'm just
picked out a better
frustrated.
path, right?
Yeah, for the final ball.
And it's interesting. Yeah, spot on Neil about Buonanotte, says Matt. Good evening, by the way, Reese. Yeah, Reese and your Uncle Clivo, good to see you all. Cooper out. It's going to be a lot of people that were doing that. I'll just let you respond to this one because interesting question. I do know you love to talk a lot about Harry Winks, Luke. So is Winks a luxury that we can't afford to play, especially if Vestergaard plays as well? Is he mobile enough for the Premier League versus Skip and Soumaré?
Yes, definitely. I think he's mobile enough, and I think he was quite mobile today, to be honest with you. And I also think that his passing range is much superior than Soumaré. Skip, yeah, I could make an argument. You can make an argument if you want to ask me about that Skip and Wink should be your double pivot options, and then possibly keep JJ in the left and then Ricardo on the right. Just don't have him invert. It's not working for him inverting. There's too many people playing, not showing what position they're going to do. Ndidi, Ricardo, and then the problem is when we get hit in transition, we look all over the place, and then we're disorganized. It's just, it's frustrating me.
Sorry. I think if he snuck in as Reese's alternative account, because he said Cooper is a pathetic, negative, spineless manager who is a scared little child, scared to go for it. Get out of my club right now. Yeah. Tell us how you really feel, Reese. What I'd like to ask chat is get all your Bouba Soumaré comments in right now, because I know a lot of people have been talking about him. I'll cover him in just a moment. I'm going to cover Vardy, so I'll give you time to get your Soumaré comments in. I'll quickly take Jamie Vardy. He actually got the assist there for Ayew at the end. And when he was involved in the attack, I think he did well. I also think that earlier on in the game, when we were playing more of the classic Enzo ball, he was getting involved quite a lot as the false nine. He almost played in, who is it for that chance? Yeah, Mavadidi early on. I think Buonanotte was finding him. And again, I think, well, here's the TLDR easies player. We need a manager that knows the system. It's pointless having a manager that doesn't know the system to teach a system he don't know. Exactly. I don't think he understands what it is. A lot of people here saying agree on inverting. Cooper doesn't in his locker to train that system. He just doesn't understand. Someone saying Cooper out, no plan, no tactics. I think even worse, he's got a tactical idea that he doesn't understand, which I'd argue even is the worst sort of thing. Because normally you get managers that have, do you know, I hate to say it, is he just like a Poundland Ten Hag where he's got some idea of how he wants to play, but anyone can just, I know it's not the same tactic, but just a tactic that is clearly not working. LCFC
if he
down under
with that tactic, that would be one thing, but he's not. He's just kind of doing the tactic that where he goes, okay, but he basically's gone, it was up to the players. But we're not following through with that. We're kind of going, oh, but I want to make some tweaks. And he makes the tweaks, makes the situation worse, and then goes, I don't know what I can do. It's like 60 minutes. I think he was completely, the team looked like they had no idea what they were doing and like a rudderless ship.
Can I ask you guys something?
Did actually, about the red card. Go on, Luke. Yeah.
I've got a good question for you guys. I'll start with you, Neil. Do you think one of the problems that we've had this whole season is that our wingers look quite isolated? When you used to see us build in our press last season under Enzo, you would see either Ndidi alongside Fatawu or Dewsbury Hall alongside Mavadidi, and they ought to be able to play the short pass 1-2s off one another as we'd build up, work our way up the pitch, which should obviously start with Winks or Vestergaard. Do you think that our press is just too barren because of that, and then we're just depending on way too many balls crossed into the box and the moves breaking down too much? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, my thoughts are just that from a coaching perspective, there's just so many holes all over the place. It's really quite depressing, to be honest with you. There isn't a clear plan on really how to progress the ball properly, how to maintain the superiorities, move the ball forward slowly but surely, and expose these kind of positions. So last season we looked good because we got our wingers isolated 1v1. That made them very dangerous. And then the box crushing eights would make them even better because it gave the decisions to the defenders of what to do. So right now you see it. How often in game, to be fair, in this game, I feel Fatawu got one-on-one against Leif Davis quite a few times, actually, maybe 6 or 7 times. How often did Mavadidi do it? Not enough. I think the eights, we keep saying that Buonanotte is not playing as an 8, he's playing as a 10. And then when he gets it, he's surrounded. So he's hero balling. It's causing problems. Ndidi is neither here nor there. It's just all a mess, quite frankly. And in some ways, I should say, well, I'm not looking forward to doing the tactical analysis because it's just going to be it's going to look like a baby throwing up, to be honest with you. Right. I said we would talk about Bouba Soumaré, so we're going to get on to it. And it's really interesting, some of the comments. They're kind of ranging from Bouba could be the KDH replacement we never knew we had.
No, come on, look, Locks. appreciate you, man, but come on, man.
To Chester with don't start Soumaré yet. 2 reactors to do so. The more he performs, then we talk. He did really well today. Yeah, so I'm going to read through all the comments first before I ask all the panelists. It's interesting that we've ended up with the Bouba Soumaré show. That's not how I anticipated this one would go, but I welcome it. I quite like it. Bouba has to start next game. He drives with the ball. He's good on the ball, very good ability, and offers more than Ndidi. Maybe true. I think he could maybe have scored near the end, but he didn't. Soumaré shrugging off defenders and getting separation was what got me excited about in the first place. Yes, I do know what you mean here, Matty. That's exactly what he did for Lille when they won the title. The problem is he's only done that like 5 times total in the LCFC shirt, and he probably did 2 of them today.
This
here
week.
we go. Yeah, rated, but Soumaré only works if you have a hard-working midfielder alongside him, i.e. Skip and/or Ndidi. For example, Winks and Soumaré is a defensive pivot, a recipe for disaster. But to be fair to what Blue Tinted Glasses Locks is saying, well, what if you played him higher up the pitch so he doesn't have to worry about the defensive side of it so much? That has kind of been, rumoured before. But Neil, you seem like the one who's got something to say here. So what do you have to say?
I just think that we're really grasping at very, very little at the moment. I don't know if he could do that role. I just think he switches off too much. I think it's almost like if he can be asked, he'll give it a go. If not, the thing is, it's just like Perez. Perez is another good player. I just don't think that Jose Perez he's gone to Spain and absolutely smashed it. I know that Soumaré went last year. I just don't think the Prem's for him. I think he just, again, maybe play him, but he's a bit of a luxury player where we need people that are going to graft at this period of time. Maybe him coming on as a sub would work, but starting and to compare him to KDH, no. Oh, am I on stream? Is everything gone? Am I going to take hold of it? What's going on now? Sorry guys, I'm just going to take this one. I don't know if everything's gone to pot. No, sorry. I thought my PC slowed down.
I did a Steve Cooper. I threw you in the mixer there.
Yeah, I don't know what the last thing you heard was.
And they're out exactly. Oh my god, you just can't get the staff these days. We're gonna have to do. All right, apologies, guys. No, the stream hasn't ended, although we've probably lost a load of comments. That's my bad. You know what I did? I misplaced a kick and I kicked out the LAN cable from my PC. That's literally what happened. I was raging hearing all these people like Neil saying Bouba Soumaré is not fit enough to wear the shirt. So let me move on, in fact. Let's talk about, all right, let's put some other ones. Bilal El Khanous. Luke, talk to me about him.
Yeah, not on long enough to give like quite an absolute massive like opinion on him. Down under. Thank you, Tito. I think Bilal has a few flashes of brilliance in him. You can see the quality in his passing range sometimes, but there are other times where there's not. But again, it's not long enough on the pitch for me to give a strong opinion on him.
Yeah, Cooper did take charge of my stream. That's why it all went to shit so quickly there. Apologies for that, everyone. All right, let's talk about surely the player that's starting to warm my hearts. Neil, talk to me about Ayew.
I mean, this is, again, he's a good player who works hard. He comes on, he gives it, I think, brilliant. I think just he's a player that can come on and change the game. And that's what we've been asking for. And a super sub he's becoming. So well done to him. I mean, he gave on. He could have had more opportunities. Again, it's a really good save by Burgess. There was another opportunity later on where he could have done more, but was deflected wide. But I think, he comes on, he's got heart, gives it a go. And again, he's turning into a bit of a super sub that ends up getting points from games that if we keep this up towards the end of the game, at the end of the season, we're talking about like a good 10 points he would have gained. If again we've got 10 points, if we've gone to basically about a quarter way through the season now, if this continues, he'll win us about 10 points.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, he could be the key to us staying up at the end. He's gained us 4 points. You'd have to agree. I mean, that's absolutely huge in there. Okay, what do we think about Casey McAteer? Here's interesting. Rated said he liked Casey being on the bench can help. I'm not sure if he really did anything in this game, but I mean, we did get something back when he came on. He came on for Mabadidi. Yeah, what did you make of his performance, Luke? Casey McAteer.
Again, I thought he was poor on that left-hand side. I just think he's so much better on the right-hand side, and I just don't think that at this point in stage or ever in his career is going to be a Premier League player. Don't get me wrong, I love Casey McAteer, and he was an absolute revelation last season. I just think for now that he needs to either be on loan or possibly sold. Do you think that he is a decent, squad depth option in the Premier League, or do you think that he's just not quite up to it?
I would probably agree with Clibo that he needs to improve his end product, but
Yeah.
has potential. I think he needs the loan, to be honest with you. I did say earlier I could see him being kept, but he's neither being used either one way or another. I mean, it's interesting, like Andy's put here, McAteer over Bobby Reed any day. And that is the fair comment, right? Is that if in our squad, I think I would agree. I think I would rather have him on the pitch rather than Bobby Reed. But yeah, I just feel that like someone like his, where he was doing good last season, he was getting a lot of games, and I think he needs another sort of 30 games this season, if that makes sense. Then we'd really see what he's about and come back fully confident. Neil, what did you make of Casey McAteer?
Well, just to come back to something on Bobby Reed before we get into this. Against Manchester United, some things he had completed zero. The minutes he was on, I think he played about 70 minutes or so. Completed 0 dribbles, 0 shots on target, won 0 aerial duels, lost possession of the ball 13 times, had 38 touches, and only completed 72 passes in the entire 72% passing accuracy.
Casey McAteer.
That was decalled over Reed in the last game.
Oh yeah, I know about that. He was awful, wasn't he? I mean, he's proved that to be a real clanger sort of thing. Yeah, lots of love for Jordan Ayew. I'm not surprised there. All right, we've said a lot, but everyone in chat as well, what are we thinking about the manager? Because you know what, it's not just the manager, but right now with Steve Cooper, the big thing is we've now played 10 games. And I think that's where, even if you're one of these, well, you can't be too rash in making a decision. Once you've played 10 games, you really get a good idea. Now, the reality is, after 10, let me ask you actually, at the start of the season, did you think after 10 games we would have 10 points? I'll be honest with you, I didn't think we would, but I think the reason we wouldn't is because we had Steve Cooper in charge. So, that's difficult for me to say.
And I think for this as well, if you look at the table, we've played, 2/3 of these teams? So we've played Tottenham, and obviously they dropped into the top 10 now. We played Fulham, we lost. We played Everton, we drew. We played Crystal Palace, we drew. We played Southampton, we won. We played Ipswich, we drew. So we've played the people around us, and we've got majority of but that's where we are. And again, it wasn't convincing. None of the wins and everything was like, oh yeah, we definitely deserve that. We definitely didn't got amazing results. So if we keep this up, 10 points, 10 games, we're going to end on 38 points. Now that would be enough kind of to keep us safe if the bottom 3 keep performing like they are doing. If not, we might get relegated.
Yeah, just a lot of people are asking. Cooper wasn't on the bench, but he was at the ground today and he was watching. And if you remember, Nuno got a touchline ban against us for Forest and they still beat us 3-1 because up high he made some decisions. I will say what I noticed is that when we were watching our particular footage is that after we started well, it cut to Steve Cooper at about 15 minutes, who was high up in the heavens, and that's when we started kicking it long. So I'm convinced that that's exactly what happened. Tyler, I think, is Ipswich friend, says, I hope Ipswich stay up. Well, as long as we stay up with them, that's all I would have to say on that. But Luke, you talk to me about the manager, because you've definitely been the most vocal for a long time. So I'm sure I know you're going to do. And I think, to be fair, someone's asked here as well, which is Scott, for all the Cooper out fans, who would you bring in? So feel free to answer all those questions.
I've wanted him out since Palermo. I think he's been an absolute pub manager. I think he's been a donkey. I've talked about him being a deluded orc, and with all jokes, and everyone said I'm being harsh and this and that. Look, the reality is he cannot. We still feel like we have no lack of identity. It's been 10 games. We've seen 2 styles of players and formation. We're not convinced of either. We haven't seen a 90-minute performance of either. There's players that just look like they're confused. There's players getting in each other's way. Let's just look at what he's got. No credit in the bank for me for Leicester. Yes, he got Forest up. Then what happened? We had a freak relegation where we shouldn't have been relegated, and they skated up by the skin of their teeth. Next season, they were real risk of being relegated again. They sacked him, brought in Nuno, and look at him. Well, Forest is doing well compared to what they were doing under Cooper. Now, let's say that we somehow just scrape past, we finish, 17th, we stay up. It's going to be the same thing the next season. Let's just stay up. Let's just stay up. Now, I'm not saying that, I'm deluded and I think we're going to be playing European football straight away again. But at the same time, I just feel like it's just too defeated to be just trying to survive season upon season. I just don't think that he's going to have the momentum or the progressive football in this day and age to be able to take this club forward to where it needs to be. I think, in my opinion, after United game, he needs to go before the next international break. Who would I bring in? I think most answers would probably be Corbrand. I think that, look, as bad and poor as Cooper's been, it's on the board who brought him in the first place. They didn't allocate a manager who continued on the foundations that were laid upon Enzo, possession-style-based football. We've got players to fit that system, and now we just have no identity whatsoever. So, yeah, do I think Steve Cooper needs to go? Absolutely, I do. We can't keep scraping past like we've been doing. We've been super lucky. We've looked unconvincing against Everton, unconvincing against Southampton before they had the red card. He just needs to go. We just keep getting away with one, and he just keeps on – Ayers basically saved him and kept him in a job, if you ask me, in my opinion. But yeah, I know I've ranted enough, but I just think that Steve Cooper just is not a Premier League manager. He needs to go.
Well, that's actually what many of the Forest fans said as well, even though they really like him. Just quickly on Carlos Corberán, though, I don't know if anyone watched West Brom against Luton last night. Actually, it was at Kenilworth Road, 1-1. West Brom, by the way, have drawn their last 5 games. And in those 5 games, there's only been, I think, a total of 4 goals scored. Either way, so let's just say it's a bit attritional. They actually scored a really good goal, West Brom, but it was totally out of keeping of the game. It was so dull to see. So just be careful. Some interesting questions actually for you, Luke. So Scott's mentioned, what about taking Ruud van Nistelrooy if he doesn't get kept on by Amorim, or Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? What do you make of those particular picks?
I don't want Ten Hag to turn us into a B-rated Ajax again, or Dutch United is what he done to Man United, because it's just.
What about Van Nistelrooy?
Van Nistelrooy is an interesting one. I watched a lot of his tactician breakdown when we were linked to him first. Van Nistelrooy maybe, to be honest with you, but I would much rather Potter over Van Nistelrooy.
Yes, I mean I have to say that I would go for Potter as well. There's some other suggestions here. Will Still from Lons. I think he's doing pretty well there, so it's probably unlikely to come. The old Hull manager is Liam Rosenior, who's at Strasbourg, and it's interesting that they picked him because they want him to play the same style as Enzo Maresca over in France with that team, so they can produce him for the first team. Neil, what do you think? Do you think it's time to make a change for a manager? Do you think that it's even a question for the board? Because I've got to be honest with you, looking at this table, I've just realised that we're 5 points clear of relegation, so I think Orc or not an Orc, I don't see it happening. But I think it's a good question. If because it's fair play. If he was to go, who would you even change him with?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think we do need to change him. And it is, but the problem is we've got to work ahead of time, because at this moment in time, yes, we're safe, but as we know, Premier League can change super quick. So Ipswich could get rid of the manager, Southampton and Wolves could get rid of the manager, new manager bounce, they get a couple of wins under their belt, they're ahead of us. No, it's not as easy as that, but we need to find a manager that plays a more, because the thing is, the way that we play is getting a possession style football, and playing. So we need to we've got, and as we saw in this game, there is good bits there. We just need a manager to come in and unlock that. But it's just so frustrating. It's just genuinely so frustrating, the fact that we had in the game, we were pinning them back, we were working, and then Steve Cooper, no, let me just change it, and it backfires so massively. For me, it's just really disappointing. But I don't think they'll make a change, because they're like, well, we're not in the relegation zone. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I tell you what, it'd be good if you can bring up his post-match comments if he said anything. Neil, I know that you somehow.
Nothing yet.
I felt you're watching like a hawk, are you? Yeah, some other things. The board have no balls, so nothing going to change. Possibly true. I think it will take the next set of fixtures to see how the board react. Playing like this, playing like this, we won't beat Ipswich at home. I am kind of scared of that. Yeah, armchair jockey Liam Rosenior playing exact same style as Enzo. Yep, that's what I mentioned. He's actually been told to do that, and it's working. He also doesn't think naturally that we'll beat Southampton at home. I will say, so it's interesting because the table, and just like the stats in this Ipswich game are a lie. It's almost like, is the table a lie? Because if you look at these fixtures, we've actually played the teams that are below us. We've played Everton, we've played Ipswich, we've played Southampton, we've played Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, that actually should have been a routine win, but the manager cost us 3 points. That's like a fact with his ultra defensive coward football there. Everton, we get a point back into it, but we didn't set up to try and attack and win the game. So in my point, so that's what I'm saying. Everton, points dropped. Crystal Palace, points dropped. Ipswich, you could say a point gain, but God Almighty, we didn't deserve anything out of this. Got lucky. And then Southampton, again, manager sets us up badly, and the players sort of seemingly take it on. And they're saying, yeah, easy. You're asking what French team? Lens. That's Will Still. That's, I mean, he's an English manager, but he speaks French as a Lens. But I think it'd be hard to convince him. Sorry, Neil, I'll cut you off. Over to you.
No, it's all good. Them two, bear in mind, something to bear in mind, the points that we picked up, both teams went down to 10 men. And that is an important thing to mention, because both of them squads and teams are weaker than us. And we only started playing after they went down to 10 men.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if you look at the underlying stats again, they don't make good reading. And I think the reality is you're right, is that basically because we've got better quality players, we're getting away with it when we shouldn't. I will say that it's hard to believe after 10 games that we will actually be above both Everton and Crystal Palace, regardless of, and Wolves. That's insane. Like this is the problem. Like, if you're the board and you don't get too involved in it, you're still going to be thinking to yourself, well, at the end of the day, we're 15th and we're 5 points clear of relegation after 10 games. Let's give Steve Cooper a new contract. And unfortunately, I could see it. So I think we're just getting a bit deleted. Rated, this is a very good list. They'll go for Potter again, but we'd presently surprised if it was Schmidt, Conceição, the ex-Porto manager, or Kovac, who was both, I think, at Bayern, and then afterwards, I think he went to Eintracht for a little bit. There are many good people out there. I mean, look at Brighton. They went and got Fabian Herzler, who was not even managed in the top Bundesliga. And what are they, 5th or something in the Premier League? Absolutely unbelievable. Look, let's wrap up the show. So any more thoughts that you want to give about anything in the game? I'll start with you, Neil, because I feel that for obvious reasons, I want Luke to end it this time round. So what do you make of just our entire season, the game so far, and how are you feeling?
Pretty lukewarm porridge. And that's the nice way to put it. It's just too defensive. And defending at the right, it's kind of the opposite of what we had with Nigel Pearson. Nigel Pearson we gave it a go, and we were a little bit too safe. But if we went and committed to the start, we'd pick up points. And I was behind Nigel, and I could see what Nigel was doing. Here it's the reverse. We've got a style. We've got a good attacking style. We'll be regressing. And when we regress, we lose points and we end up dropping points. Or we rely on the other teams to mess up worse than us, which is, again, it's a recipe for disaster. By disaster, I mean relegation. So not impressed at all.
How many points do you reckon we'll have after 20 games, given that we've played 10?
20 points.
Do you really? Even though realise that we're not going to be playing these teams that are below us?
Yeah, that's a good point. 15?
Yeah, it could be. Luke, you round off the show. So what do you think? Where are we going? And where do you think we'll be another 10 games from now?
Hate to be negative and doom and gloom, but I think the next 4 games we're going to lose all of them. And I think this is why I would rather... I think you're right to point out that I don't think the board's going to think that we need to reappoint a manager now, but I just think that it would make a lot more sense to be proactive and get someone in now, but they're not going to see it that way. And unfortunately, I just think it's going to have to come down to it getting toxic, probably 3 back-to-back losses, bad ones, particularly against Chelsea. I'm expecting to lose by quite a lot. Going to get our hearts broken by Enzo. And I think that for him to get sacked, I think it's actually going to have to come down to the players, maybe grassing behind his back, maybe the likes of Ricardo or Vardy, going to the board and being like, listen, through their manager or whoever, I'm not sure how these things work, but look, be like, it's not working. He's losing the dressing room. And I think we're going to start to see that when we start getting these hard fixtures which are about to come up. That's probably one to bring up.
I think I would probably end it with this classic one that Locks has asked me to play, which you haven't seen at all. This is AFTV.
AFTV, Claude, I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked. Time to go!
It's time to go. I believe with this manager, it's just asking for trouble. I don't think they'll pull the plug, but I've seen enough. I don't think you're Do you know what? I think he'll stay, but I think he's going to be in trouble. So everyone, thank you for joining us for the instant match reaction. It has ended. Ipswich 1, Leicester City 1. Leicester get away with it with Jordan Ayew after Calvin Phillips gets sent off. Join us on the channel. We'll also be having some post-match analysis maybe tomorrow or Monday. You can watch Good Morning Foxes tomorrow with Locks Over Blue Tinted Glasses. I believe Luke will be on that as well. Thank you, Neil and Luke, for joining me tonight. Thank you to everyone in chat. Please subscribe to all the channels and like the video. Thank you for your time. Hopefully have a good Saturday evening after this one. You'll probably be okay, but thinking, you know what? Play the lottery if you're Steve Cooper, because you've got a good chance of winning it with his luck. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye. Video ever.